Hello, and welcome to Programmer's Respite. I'm here today to talk to you about a application that I've been writing for my advanced software engineering class at Full Sail University for the graduates program. I'm studying for computer science and am looking to hopefully get my master's. So, without further ado, we're going to look at a program called DataForge that I've been writing. It's written in .NET using Visual Studio 2022, and it uses Windows Forms for the user interface. We're going to go ahead and clean and build fresh. We'll clean the solution too. This application uses just the .NET framework and the Windows Forms, so it is very easy to get up and running through the typical Visual Studio builder. As we can see, it successfully built the release version, and we'll go ahead and run that. And click Continue Debugging. This is what DataForge looks like, an application that is written for the purpose of helping people who are defining messages going between individual machines or multiple components. If you have to transfer data between one machine to another, or even inside of individual classes inside of a single process. If you have to serialize that data, that's what the goal of DataForge is to help you with. So you can create new messages here. As you can see, you can add a new message with a name. For example, we can give it my first data class. And then you can choose to add individual elements to this list. And they're usually able to be, they're variables that can be of basic types, or you can make an array. For in this case, we might want an array of 10. And then you can give it a variable type of var1, and then choose basic types that can go along with this. In the future, I hope to add available support for existing messages so that you can have embedded messages. We can add another variable here. We'll call it var2. We can make this one a C pointer that is a pointer to potentially a list of integers in 16s. If we wanted, we can even make it static or point to unsigned ints 16s. And we can apply that. And then here in the list, if you click on an element, you will see on the right side, it shows a list that we can expand here that shows details that have yet to be filled in, as this is still an application working in progress. Today I'm talking about Milestone 1, which in the case of that was to make these user interfaces and the ability to select and add the initial components to the definitions of these messages. And you can select between these two, and you can view the details about them. So we can see that variable 2, which we created, is marked as unsigned and is a pointer. If we, for say, wanted to change that, we can double click on the variable, and then as you can see here, we kind of have a list of the first data class that we're working on is an available structure. We could make this a subtype, so we could potentially add that. But right now this doesn't work. While you can select it, it will not add anything right now. And that is planned as a potential future addition to this application, but may not happen in the scope of the class that I am attending. If we wanted to change its name, we could change it to variable 3 instead. And if we could even change the type to a floating point. So now it's a C pointer of unsigned floats. And that doesn't really matter, so maybe we'll just uncheck the unsigned part and then apply. And you'll see on the left that it automatically updated the variable's name and its type that's described in this list. We also can move these items up or down. I should have done down first, but we can move down or up in the list to reorganize them. When we're ready to finish this class, we can apply and close, and we'll see that there are 2 classes. That's a bug that was accidental, but we have two classes, and if we want to edit a selected class, we can select this class and then change some variable information. So we can say edit var2, var1, and change it to var a now instead, and then apply. And then we can apply and close. And right now these are static links to the individual object, which I will fix in a future update. And we can now add a new message. So we'll add new message 1, and we will add a couple variables in there. So we'll add variable 1. We'll give it an unsigned int16 variable. We'll add another unsigned int64 variable. And then we need to remember to change the name to 2. Apply. And then we can apply and close. Now we can see we have two messages here that are in this table now. One other feature that this application has, but is not implemented yet, is the planned ability to export to multiple languages and the ability to choose a file that you want to export to. In this case, we would have an output to C++ maybe, and this will show up as a file that you can output. There's also a plan for loading and unloading the files, so you can open and save your workspaces so you can use them later. Those are going to be implemented in a future date. For now, we can look at the source code so that we can get some more in-depth understanding of what's going on in this application. The first thing that happens when we open the application is that it opens and creates this new form. This new form contains all of the components that are important for this application to run. It's also the same main display form. Inside here we have an update tree view function, which serves the purpose of creating that tree view that you saw in the application. For example, we can actually run the application on the side while we're doing this so that it's easier to kind of show what piece is where. This is the main view. Inside here, the tree view will update any additional variables that we add, or any additional messages and their children types that we add in. So if we added a couple messages in here, applied and closed, these would show up on this list. This is what the goal of the update tree view is. It does the same thing in the message editor form when we add individual variables. There's another function just like this that is inside of the message editor form class. The next additional areas are a list of various applications and various buttons and the click events that happen when you click on a button. For example, the load buttons and the choosing the file buttons open a new dialog file selector, and then there's the edit button that will search for an existing message definition in the workspace manager and then open a dialog so you can edit those. If you create a new message, it just creates a new message, then opens the dialog and links in a few close event handlers. These are a bunch of functions that have not been implemented yet, but they will be soon. And then when we have successfully opened a file, we would call Workspace Manager to open that file. In Workspace Manager, which is the next important file, we have the definitions. Oops, I think these might be too small. I'm going to scale this up a bit and move this around. In this next message, we have Workspace Manager, which contains an instance in a singleton style format so that we can only have one Workspace Manager. When you create the Workspace Manager, it will check, and if you try to make more than one, it will throw an exception. Then this manager currently it just contains a list of the message definitions that are displayed in the user interface. So in the case of the currently running application, this would contain new message 1 and new message 2. Then we have some get functions and an add function to be able to add new messages when they're created. The message definitions are a structure that looks like this right now. It's very simple. It contains a name, the structure name, which is what the code gen name will be, and then a description and a type, and then the lists of the elements or message items inside of the structure. This type here is most likely just basically the name itself, but you might be able to change a message's name type in the case that you're defining a different type for a message than what you want to have it just shown as in the workspace. Then there's a toString override where we change how we display the string for the message so that we can display it really easily on the message manager. So in this case it comes in just as the name. If it's a variable, which are created as a sub-message definition, because the message item is a message definition, they can also be a message definition as a complex type in the case that there are substructures in your message, or a message item that is just a basic type. Scrolling through this, we have a very similar structure of the messages, is essentially the same thing, but the difference between the message item and the message definition is that the toString override contains the type attached to it as well, so it is easier to read and to understand. This is the message form designer, which we don't need to look at. The message item form itself contains some additional information that is used in the constructor to either look at creating a new item, like here, where it creates a new item and sets up the very minimal amount of content that you need. Then if you are looking at editing an item, the same form is used, but it loads in the details from the item that you pass into it, and then assigns a reference to it for the remainder of this object's existence. Once we have finally applied the changes that we're interested in applying, we can click the Apply button. And this function here, by the way, is a checker to lock the... If we edit this item, hold on, edit item. If we are editing in this form, is the one we're currently talking about. If we are editing here, this array variable locks the length in the case that you're not using it. In this apply check function, all values are applied to the item, and then we return an event that is called apply requested. Apply requested is caught by, in the case of the item, apply requested is caught when the, let's see, where did it go? Message editor form. Right here. Oh no, this is the message editor forms apply. One second, I am trying to find it. There it is. When apply requested happens, it's caught by this add a new item function. What this does is then add the item that has been applied by the item editor to the message lists, and then updates the tree view in the message editor. In the case of this message, we have message 2, and if we were to add a new variable, we have variable 3, and we click apply. That is the function that appears to cause it to appear. That's the function that runs to cause it to appear on the variable 3. These are the various functions that are involved in the buttons. And when we select an item, we look to see if that item exists in the list of, if the item that was selected in the tree view should be an item that already exists, but we look for it anyway. And in the case that we find the item, we then update that property grid to display the settings for that message item. This is the function to search for the item. We have to split out because of the way the search happens. It searches based on the node, and the node's text value is what's displayed. We end up splitting out the data after the colon and then return the item if we find it. If we double click on an item, we automatically try to open the editor form for the item. When the item form has closed, we automatically update the property grid. When the message editor form loads, we also automatically update the property grid in the case that we're editing an image, in the case that we're editing an existing message. This is the function for updating the tree view. It's very similar to the one in the main form, where it goes and clears the current tree and then updates the list in the tree based on the toString function of the messages that it currently contains. Whenever we change the text in the display, we are able to quickly update the message live and then update the tree view again. Let's see, did I forget anything else? Here is a function that I borrowed from Stack Overflow, which was a trivial mechanic for moving up and moving down functions. When you push a button, it moves the nodes around in the tree. And that is all that I have to show you today. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and please let me know if there's anything else you would like to see in the future, and I look forward to hear from all of you. Thank you.